appears on the World War I battlefield. The tank, on a mission to crush German defenses and end 2 years of bloody trench warfare.
The advent of tanks changes warfare completely. It will never be the same again.
The rolling 28-ton monsters horrify the Germans and send panic through the lines.
These guys have no idea what's coming for us. None of these guys had ever seen a machine like a tank.
The Germans respond with ferocious firepower.
You're sitting in a metal coffin that will turn into an inferno in seconds.
And finally field lethal tanks of their own.
Machine gun bullets are smashing against the tank, and that noise is death.
The face of modern warfare changes forever, and the stage is set for history's first great tank battle. The tank, undisputed king of the battlefield. Through the 20th century, they have been key to modern mobile warfare, the deciding factor in many of history's greatest battles. The tank's journey began almost a century ago, during the desperate fighting of World War I.
In 1916, the Great War is a stalemate. We've got trench warfare. There's a line of trenches with the British and the French on one side, then the Germans on the other.
The result? A 430-mile network of trenches, barbed wire, and machine guns, cutting a deadly swath through Belgium and France. This is the Western Front.
The technology of 1916 is based on infantry, which are vulnerable to machine guns, and of course always held up by trenches and by barbed wire. So even at the very beginning of the war, people are aware that there must be a way of overcoming barbed wire, trenches, machine guns.
The British believe the solution can be found in tracked vehicles. But the idea of a mobile weapon on the battlefield has been around for ages. From Hannibal's war elephants to the drawings of Leonardo da Vinci, and right up to the science fiction ironclads of H.G. Wells. The British launch a top-secret weapons program, calling it the Tank Project, to trick German spies into believing they're water carriers. The reality is lethally different. These are mobile killing machines.
What makes the tank so important in the First World War is that for the very first time, you get the combination of thin armor plate, a power source, and the technology of the track.
On January 29, 1916, the British unveil history's first tank, the Mark I. Outfitted with two enormous 65-foot-long tracks, the Mark I is designed to span even the widest of trenches and can be armed with either two 6-pounder naval guns or 4 deadly Vickers machine guns. Wheels at the back help keep it stable. But it's slow, cumbersome, and requires a large crew to take it into battle.
There would normally be 8 men in one of these tanks. 4 of them are dealing with the guns. The rest of the crew, the other 4 men, are all involved in driving. Now, this tank is virtually identical in size to the tanks that first went into action on the Somme in September 1916.
The Battle of the Somme, fought over 5 months in 1916, was British Commander Douglas Haig's attempt to end the 2-year stalemate. By September, it has already cost the Allies over 300,000 casualties. Desperate to stop the carnage, Haig turns to his new weapon.
And the decision was taken, use the tanks as soon as they were available.
They'll go into battle north of the Somme River. For his attack, Haig has amassed 200,000 men, more than 700 artillery pieces, and 49 of his brand new tanks. And they're up against more than 100,000 German soldiers, dug in along a 7-mile front. But before Haig can launch his main attack, he must first eliminate a threat to his flank by clearing the Germans from Delville Wood. And for the first time in the history of warfare, tanks will lead the attack.
This is Delville Wood. This is the start line of the attack by 3 tanks of D Company in the first ever tank attack on the morning of the 15th of September 1916. But when the tanks were here, their crews wouldn't have seen nice, pretty countryside. They would have seen shell holes, splintered trees. It would have been hell on earth. They even called it Devil's Wood.
3 tanks from D Company move out into the pre-dawn darkness. The crews trusting their lives to these unproven new weapons. In a matter of moments, one tank breaks down and is unable to continue. Another gets stuck on uneven ground. But one tank, nicknamed Daredevil by its commander, Captain Harold Mortimer, continues the attack.
On that morning, the whole thing seemed so unreal. I didn't think my tank would be the first in the world to fire a shot in anger. I saw lots of flashes coming from the edge of the woods. I gave the order to open fire with one of the 6-pounders. I managed to get astride one of the trenches, but we got a direct hit. It broke my track.
All 3 tanks are lost, but the infantry take Delville Wood, clearing the way for Haig's main attack, which calls for 200,000 Allied troops to advance along a 7-mile front. Their objective? The fortified villages of Courcelette, Morval, and Fleur. And for the first time, tanks will lead a mass infantry attack. Their mission? Crush the barbed wire and suppress machine gun fire, allowing the infantry to advance and storm the German trenches.
This is where the battle begins. Early in the morning of the 15th of September, down this road here come the tanks, moving towards the village, already assembled are all of 41st Division. The infantry waiting to go forward with their tanks leading. Essentially, everything is heading towards that village. That down there is the objective, the first tank attack.
After a massive artillery barrage, the tanks crawl slowly towards German lines in small groups.
Inside the tank now, things are really unpleasant. Not only do we have this tremendous amount of noise roaring off the engine, which is right in the middle, these exhaust stacks carrying the fumes out through the top of the tank will now be so hot you won't be able to touch them. In fact, they'll start glowing pink after a while in the dark, and you'll just feel the heat radiating off them onto your skin. Now we're getting closer to the firing line. The ground's getting rougher, the tank's slowing down.
Lieutenant Basil Henrique's tank approaches no man's land, the point of no return.
We got our first look at what looked like impossible ground. Hardly a yard was not a shell crater. It was like a rough sea made of holes. After 100 yards, George stopped with engine trouble. This time, for good.